Welcome to our Ask Me Anything session, us being the Institute of Advanced Research in Artificial Intelligence, or IARAI for short. I'm Michael Kopp. Before I open the floor to your questions and also introduce my esteemed colleagues, let me briefly outline who we are, what we are up to, and how you can interact with us. Our mission is to conduct fundamental and applied research in artificial intelligence on real-world datasets in order to tackle large challenges that affect us all. We seek to advance the theory of AI and shed light on black box learning methods. We strive to advance the tools needed to disrupt smart city control, large fleet management, or build safe self-driving cars in our world simulation research area. Last but not least, in our prediction through description area, we applied generative, geometric deep learning, and self-supervised learning techniques to tackle real-world prediction problems. Throughout, we embrace critical data analysis and are focused on how the compute for modern AI has to be able to scale. Hence, we are trying to blend the diverse skill sets of machine learning, data analysis, and what's traditionally referred to as DevOps engineering. To achieve our goal, we're building a unique environment of world-class researchers and industrial-scale real-world data openly shared with the scientific community, with which we also try to engage in the following way. We have unique research opportunities, such as our theoretical work with Sepp Hochreiter's team in Linz on continuous modern hot-field networks, resulting in new differentiable associative memory layers that can be used in new other neural network architectures. In fact, Sepp will give an introduction to these and answers questions later today at 6 p.m. CAT. We are also interested in geometric deep learning, and Johannes Brandstetter kindly gave an overview on potential future work we're planning in this area in our Expo introduction. Have a look to learn more. You can engage with us through our competitions. Since 2019, our traffic forecast competition has been at NeurIPS, and this year we are challenging participants to deal with temporal domain shifts due to COVID and transfer learning to unseen cities where very little data is given. So it's a bit like a few-shot learning problem. Moreover, we adapted our format to allow for GNN methods and our traffic movie methods to compete with one another, hopefully leading again to new insights on how we can get a grip on the phenomena that is traffic. In our weather forecast competition, organized together with AMET, the Spanish Meteorological Service, we explore how weather can be predicted and transfer learned from multi-channel inputs. We're working with the Andalusian Health Ministry, who possesses 10 million health records, on how to gain insights into the data they have and on privacy methods to protect this data. I should mention at this point, and that comes from a comment that we had on our expo, that no personal data or personally identifiable data is actually leaving the Andalusian Health Ministry. So we're doing this through privacy conscious methods, our research. If you want to know more, just contact us. We're happy to explain that to you. We are interested in advancing how large compute of deep learning can be improved and how current hardware architectures can be better harnessed, maybe even through the use of machine learning itself. To this end, we're collaborating with the Technical University of Vienna. We are also hosting scientific programs, mainly based on the way they are run at the Newton Institute in Cambridge. They are not workshops where, well, no work is done, but an intensely focused get-together for collaborative research driven by a chosen topic of a select group of resident academics and outside researchers. We intend to form a scientific committee to set this focus, including of outside researchers and experts in the field, for the following workshops. Associative memories in deep learning inspired by biologically plausible architectures. On few-shot learning, AI for Earth observation, which follows on from our CDCEO workshop at CIKM 2021. On the latter topic, we are also hosting during ICML a special seminar that's given by Dr. Petram Gamisi on the Earth observed by the machines. And it's actually tomorrow. Again, if you'd like to join, please sign up on our website. We will announce detailed plans for these scientific programs and for further scientific programs on our website in due course. Last but not least, you can interact with us by collaborating with us or joining us. If you're interested in the latter, please contact us either by going to Topia and just meet some of us and make your interests known to us. And that you best do at Café Mozart, which is in the top right-hand corner of our square in Topia. or email us at, well, I would like to introduce to you now my illustrious and great colleagues, but in fact, I shall let them introduce themselves. Maybe David, if you start.
Then I will start. I'm David
Sure.
Kreil. I'm one of the directors of the Institute. I come from a background in data science. If you have any questions regarding to how we built the Institute, why we built it, or why you want to be here, fire ahead.
I'm Moritz Neun. I'm a research and engineer at IARAI. My background is computer science and geographic information science. And with that, I'm particularly interested in the intersection between machine learning for solving real-world geospatial problems and their application at scale. At IARAI, I helped initiating the traffic forecast competition, which Michael already alluded to. That was 2.5 years ago, and I'm currently one of the main organizers of this year's competition. Ben, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Springer. I was a physicist basically almost a year ago, so I joined IARAI only shortly. And for me, the motivation to go into AI is clearly in physics. There is some sort of a very interesting situation that always experiments are a little bit ahead of theory, and theory tries to explain how experiments, what is observed. And it's a very interesting situation in AI because in some way we are experimentalists and there are almost no theorists yet. And the way IARAI is organized is very much to better understand AI and to more or less generate a theory behind what is going on. And this is very, very interesting to me. And that's why I'm here with them. I'm very thankful to be part of this team.
And we are very, very thankful for you to be there. Fantastic. I see the first question from Fala Fakiri. He says, hi, my question is, many researchers are working and publishing great results as non-profitable researchers in order to look for an opportunity of work. How you could support them? Myself, I'm basically an applied machine learner and deep learner in remote sensing. I'm applying. I think you kind of probably answered the question, Fala. So do apply. That's great. That's one way. I said on the last slide, I can maybe share, but if you go to Topia, if you want to collaborate with us, we can do that. Does anyone have a better answer than mine?
It will be very interesting what sort of research you are interested in particular. So it's always about discussion, what sort of scientific problem sets one can focus on. So if you want to reach out for us and discuss what you are interested in, that will probably be the best thing to do.
David, I have a feeling there's a question coming up for you, and I feel a bit like it's unfair for me dishing them out, but you can also pull me in. This is from Penelope Benenati. A tenured post in Austria is an indefinite academic appointment that can be terminated only for cause or under extraordinary circumstances. In public academic institutions, the government itself guarantees the permanent status of the tenured position. What does ensure the permanent status of a tenured position at IARAI?
The institute is a private institute, so as a result, the government doesn't meddle with what we do. That is good in general. In terms of tenure, people that are tenured faculty receive a permanent contract, and people that reach that stage are usually so good that we're also very happy to let them do whatever they like without meddling with them. So that's the status, but no, it's not you've now reached tenure, you can stop working type of position. There was actually a joke by a colleague who recently achieved tenure at Oxford University, who was researching sea life. And there's this organism that swims around in the sea, and then at some point it attaches to a rock and it changes. And the first thing it does, it digests its own brain because it doesn't need it anymore. So that's not how we operate. When you have tenure, you're still expected to be an active and equally brilliant as before scientist as when you started. And of course, we will not terminate a tenured position just for fun or just because we don't like what someone is doing. But yes, we would expect people to contribute also once they're tenured. So guarantees, as in government guarantee, no. Freedom to operate and freedom to do whatever research you like, yes. So that's how we operate.
Yeah. Maybe I shall add something. Not being a lawyer, you shouldn't maybe take this too much as the gospel, but I think when governments say they guarantee permanent status, in effect, you're still an employee. So I know that, for instance, at Leicester University in the UK, there are mathematicians who've just been made redundant. So much for the permanent status. Of course, the UK is different. There actually trusts operate, and you're effectively an employee as a permanent or a member of or if you have a permanent position, you are effectively an employee of a charitable trust. And then normal employment laws, or even slightly less employment laws, are governing that relationship. But that said, I think, David, you captured that well. I see another question. Okay, so Fala Fakiri actually said, yes, sure, I didn't answer, so probably I didn't answer the question. However, I correct the mistake of diction. How could I reach out to you, I guess, and how could you support me as an independent researcher scientifically? I'd say join us. So reach out to us by applying, come to our Topia booth, talk to us.
And perhaps I can add, and please, Daniel, fill in, but just from the formal side, because we sometimes get asked what are the different types of positions that we have, and that's exactly what research fellows are. They come as independent researchers, they get support for their salary and for their work, and then they can pursue their own research. Maybe, Daniel, you want to comment a bit more?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the question how one can support you as an independent researcher, support is a very general terminology, so it's unclear what sort of support you need, financial or in terms of data or in terms of computing resources. These things, you should probably try the Topia booth and then talk to a scientist. So you will reach one of us, and then we can discuss in more detail what your understanding of support is. So difficult to answer the question, it's very general. But let's have a chat. I suggest to just talk.
Like that answer. I have another question from Aniket. Does one need to have a strong mathematics and physics background with master's and or PhD to be eligible to apply at IARAI? Do research internship opportunities come up for bachelor degree students?
Well, I would emphasize that we're an interdisciplinary institute, so we don't have any particular requirements for people to have a formal education in maths or physics or computer science. And to a certain degree, you won't need to be an expert in these, but you do, of course, need to have the background to be able to understand and apply machine learning methods. So if you come from a completely non-technical background, you will need some catching up to do. And what we strongly suggest, if you come from a very different background, that you just get involved, that you try to apply your skills and develop your skills maybe in one of the data analysis competitions that we run. And if you do well there are no questions asked. This is a very empirical field. Very few people really have insights into how the models work. So I can only encourage you, get involved, get your hands dirty, engage with us, and you're always welcome at the Institute.
I mean, we look at our mission, and it really is, let's be ambitious and solve some relevant problems in the world that challenge us all with data. And I think we're not religious about formal degrees and so on, but I guess we do like people who have new ideas, who we believe bring the world forward. And we also don't necessarily, I mean, because we are independent, we don't have to follow cookie cutter things like term structures of university or semesters. So we can be very flexible and very quick. We do actually have students, or actually someone starting very soon is with us for a month. So the level at which you can interact with us isn't cast in stone.
Maybe to add there, Michael, one means of interaction and getting in contact, of course, is also the competitions you also mentioned, right? Where you basically have both some data and also some problems at hand, and you can also kind of get in touch, get into the space of the problems or some of the problems we're interested in, and so just also adding that as another opportunity there.
I have a similar question along those lines from Pantik Deb. Any suggestion, advice you want to give students who are learning AI, ML from the remote part of the world, wherever that is, and mentorship program of such kind of people?
To emphasize again what Michael said, we care less about formal qualifications, but actually how independently people think, how curious, how innovative they are. And I can only say, if you expect an environment where someone will take your hand and tell you what steps to take and what steps to take next and what steps to take next, that's probably not what we will provide. So we expect everyone joining the institute to have some fire in their eyes and some enthusiasm to ask questions themselves and try things out themselves. And of course, there's a supportive environment of people who you can discuss with. And you don't even need to formally be on location for that, although it certainly helps. So all I can do and say here is, if you're interested in working with the institute, get involved in some of the events or activities that we do, engage with the competitions perhaps, reach out to us, take part in the seminars, ask questions in the seminars. And these are all ways in which you can get involved, in which we can also support your scientific development.
And I would like to add maybe that, so we all do science at the Institute. So it is a little bit difficult for us to take someone's hand and really guide you along, since we ourselves, most of the time, we don't know. So this is active research going on. And if you are interested, then go for it. Try to engage in the competitions, for example, because you will get your hands dirty. And then if you win, fantastic. If you don't win, you might have the chance to learn something from those who won the competition. So in active science, the only thing that you really need is interest. If you have that, very good, then go for it.
Penelope asked, thank you very much for your answer. Maybe my question was not quite clear. More precisely, I wanted to understand the difference between tenured and non-tenured positions at IARAI. Thank you again.
Basically, it's the difference between a permanent work contract and a non-permanent work contract. If you come in on a tenure track position, you will get a time-limited contract, and you will be evaluated. And if that looks good, it will be converted into a permanent position. And if you go in on a tenured position, it will permanent from the beginning. So typically, tenured positions are for people that are already well established in the field and senior and have proven their track record, whereas tenure track positions are for people that show potential to do so.
I have another comment from Fala. Thank you. Thanks for your nice comment. Well, thank you, Fala, for interacting with us. I myself entered the world of programming, machine learning, deep learning more than 2 years ago. 2 peer-reviewed articles have been published. I designed the project and put all the necessary points and procedures. Sometime I'm facing a problem need to be answered, especially in deep learning. That's what I meant by scientific support. So I guess it's answering particular questions on deep learning in order to implement everything smoothly. Thanks for your patience. I guess we're always happy to reach out, especially if it's a method some of us have developed. But as Daniel said, or at least that's my answer, some of the things no one knows, right? I mean, I think machine learning or black box machine learning at the moment is a very empirical field, and maybe we should measure more. Don't know whether that satisfies your question, Fala. Anyone else with a better and more reassuring answer?
I would have to ask whether it's more on the technical side or whether it's understanding of what is going on. Because then, if you're asking for the black box, then maybe no one knows. If it's a technical question, then difficult to say, because we are not maybe so well informed what your projects are about. But this is something, as I mentioned before, if it's ongoing research from your side, then it possibly requires more interaction, and not. So we probably can't answer it immediately. So again, I suggest if you have ongoing research, contact us. Let's talk and let's see what you are doing and whether we can help you and support you.
Okay, so here's a great question. Any topics or any problems which this institute actually works, or it probably means is actually working on? Clearly, I wasn't clear, so I apologize. I can repeat that. Do you have any restrictions on topics and problems? Happy to say. I mean, I hope the list I gave at the start on associative memory, on actually where we have natural data from, so traffic and weather, how to understand these phenomena, Earth observation, where Petram will give a talk. These are topics we are clearly working on very much, plus the compute in machine learning itself. How do you optimize that in other theoretical topics. We don't really have any restrictions, but I would say personally here, and David, I'd like to know your view, and Moritz, actually yours as well. I mean, there are no restrictions, but somehow we also need to have a natural advantage why it's us that can answer this question better than others. That's how I would maybe phrase the restriction. Be it, what I mean here, being data, or that we actually have insights and ability in that area, or anything else.
And I would also emphasize that we really care to have open research that addresses questions that are of relevance to us all, to the community, the scientific community, and everyone around us as well. So we prefer work that either addresses interesting theoretical problems, or that addresses problems that are of relevance to a lot of people. We wouldn't be interested, say, in very technical research that produces a product. Yeah, this is something that you would do in the research division in a company. That's not what we do. So if it can be published, if it's interesting to other people, that's already a good start. And the other thing I should probably also say, AI is one of those trendy words that's used and abused for a lot of things nowadays. When we talk about AI, we mean modern machine learning in AI. We don't mean philosophical contemplations. We don't mean large database systems. I mean, these all play a role, but that's not the focus of our research. So I just wanted to clarify that, perhaps.
I think Michael already hinted also at the larger data question, right? And this obviously is something where we are lucky to have access to some data sets not everybody has access to, and I think this is also in some way at least influencing where we're interested in and what problems we are focusing on, namely what you have seen through the competitions with traffic data or with weather data, where we have very interesting collaborations also on getting data access.
And I can also add maybe an example what is from my side. So my background is physics, condensed matter theory. So basically, I'm working on two intersections: intersection of condensed matter theory with artificial intelligence, and the intersection of artificial intelligence and condensed matter theory. So these two things are not the same, and I'm exploring this intersection basically from both sides. In this world, sometimes physics helps to understand theory in AI, and maybe the other way around as well. So maybe this gives you a little bit of an idea. It's a bit more applied or practical or more concrete answer, I hope, to answer what you hopefully asked for.
I'm learning something, Daniel, that you know, there is non-commutative differential geometry, non-commutative or free probability theory, and now there must be non-commutative set theory, where the intersection does actually not compute. Very nice. I like that. I have a question, actually probably very close to our heart, from Tilak Marupila. Sorry if Tilak, if I mispronounce your name. How close are we to detect earthquakes, floods, collapsing buildings using remote sensing? We still see such unexpected events happening. How is remote sensing research happening in these areas? Well, we have certainly lots of experts in IARAI. I don't think we have them on the call. I think I'm probably the one who knows least about this, or I read the papers with interest. I don't think we're as far as you would want in that yet, but we're certainly thinking about it and developing the tools, as David said, openly, to maybe tackle those questions. So great question. That these are exactly the kind of problems that we mean when we set challenges that affect us all.
This also relates very closely to the world simulation idea, maybe a bit, because a lot which is happening there is understanding the processes underneath, and this is clearly one of the research areas, but at the same time also one which is in many areas just starting to get the necessary data to build those models.
There's a question, I think, Daniel, you partially answered. I'm a physicist myself, so I have, that's from, sorry, I should say, Zbigniew Strutzik. I'm a physicist myself, so I have a question to Dr. Springer. Which problems in physics, if any, is IARAI interested in?
Yes, so I'll not reveal too much, but from condensed matter physics, there are a couple of problems which require large amounts of data, or which could potentially be solved with large amounts of data. So these are basically analytical problems, but not immediately solvable. So I'll be happy to discuss in a little bit more detail, but it probably goes too deep for this more general setup of this Ask Me Anything session. But you can either contact Topia booth, get my contact details there, and I'll be very happy to discuss in more detail what you are interested in and what I'm doing in more particular.
We're entering a dangerous realm now in terms of questions, and that's from Aniket. What are your views on OpenAI's GPT-3, the forthcoming GPT-4, and do you believe that their future avatars could be a close realization to AGI? If I can attempt an answer, but that may not be satisfactory, which is I don't even know. I mean, AGI is what used to be formerly called AI before everyone abused the definition. And I guess the question is what is AGI? So if you want a general intelligence, does it mean you fool a Turing test? Does it mean it can like us learn things on the fly? I mean, that's clearly the aim of AGI, and it would be interesting if we could get there, to be very honest. Also maybe frightening in some areas, but also definitely very interesting. Do I believe that something like GPT-4 does that? I just don't think so. Maybe I don't hope so. Maybe it's part of the inherent center of the universe drive we have about ourselves in that we don't like to believe that we are that simple. But can I exclude it? No. But to be honest, it's not a question I ask myself very often. So I would say if it can solve and help solve real challenges that we have, by all means, if it's AGI or not, I'm less fussed, to be honest. But anyone else, please provide a philosophically more profound and sound answer, by all means. If not, then I have a very, very good question from Mr. Strutzik. Again, sorry if I am unable to pronounce your first name correctly. A general question: as a private institute, you are likely for profit. How open are you to collaborate with other institutes and universities? And I think that's a very good point because we're actually not for profit. But David, I'll let you answer it, and then I give maybe a legalistic answer to that.
I don't even think we need to go into the legal details. I think the situation is simply that in most places, private institutes are formally run as companies for tax reasons, but that doesn't mean that they're trying to make money. So for instance, in the Austrian Academy of Sciences, the German Max Planck Institutes, these are all institutes that are not government run and that are formally a company, but they're not trying to make money to sell something. Yeah. So we are a private institute that works for insights that we aim to publish. So as a result, it's very natural for us to collaborate with other universities and other researchers. So there's nothing about our research that's closed in nature.
Not just for tax reasons, also that in other than in like Anglo-Saxon countries, trusts that are not for profit, they cannot run operations. So you actually need a formally for-profit company that runs the operation, and that's owned by the trust, which is our setup, the same setup as the Austrian Academy of Science, as David said, the Max Planck Gesellschaft, the same as the Fraunhofer Institutes, the same as nearly any university in these countries. So our setup isn't for profit, essentially. And yes, we have the same setup as others. Go for it, Daniel.
So the for-profit is answered. Then the question, how open, is also easily to answer. So this is a binary question, basically, because there's no how open is 50% open. So we are completely open to collaborate with institutes and other universities. So I give you an example. When I joined IARAI, very soon there were was an open collaboration with basically my former group, because the intersections are just not deniable. So some of my work is with my former group, with the Technical University of Vienna. And I hope that answers the question, how open, fully open to collaborate.
question from Benjamin Gaji. Thanks for all the info. I like the scope of the Institute from a methodological, theoretical point of view. My question now is, would work on transparent white box models for educational contexts, i.e. learning to read, etc., which I'm currently doing, would that fit into the scope of the Institute? Again, as we said earlier, anything that brings the, I would say that brings the state of the art forward. Also where we have expertise and maybe a natural advantage, I think is very welcome. So if it's learning to read and maybe understand and react, that can help all of us solve different problems, then I would say that's definitely something we would consider. So it wouldn't definitely fall out of the scope. Maybe it needs a bit more detail to really understand the full scope.
Yes. The questions, it's very difficult to really say a lot. I think it might be best to either reach out or even send in an application with a proposal, with a research proposal from a very short description. It's difficult to say, no, it is not of interest. So more information will be required to give a clear answer, I guess.
Okay, very nice. A very good question, I think, from Marco Cipriano. Hope you didn't talk about this already. Are you currently planning to expand your research on machine learning to brand new fields and areas? So my answer would be absolutely. If we can actually help and advance and solve problems in new areas by applying what's actually there or what we develop, that's our ambition. Yes, definitely.
So this can only be answered with a yes, I think.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think that's definitely where we are and what we're aiming at, right? So yeah,
it is very difficult because to brand new fields and areas, I mean, there are so many things that you can expand to. It's difficult. We can't go for everything that is there, but of course, it's in science, you always try to explore new things. So in general, the answer is absolutely yes.
Maybe also this is more from my interpretation also. I mean, one of the reasons, and here AI is maybe, or machine learning, as David said, modern machine learning. I think the distinction between purely theoretical research and practical application is actually not very pronounced in a field that's mostly heuristic, where yes, you're using math and so on, but there are lots of heuristical steps that you take to try and come up with a solution. I think this cannot exist if you don't try out the idea. And of course, our aim is to do that on any real world problems. Hence, yeah, we're absolutely positively trying to get into these areas. And on the other hand, I think that also drives us further in the theory to consider how we can use the building blocks we have or new ones that we're constructing to tackle new problems. We have a new one from So Takao. Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. I have a background in math and currently doing research related to machine learning to weather climate science, which seems to be related to what you do at IARAI. Do you have any open internship opportunities to get a feel of what you do? I mean, again, one of the advantages of not being part of a university is that we are small and nimble and we can make it up as we go along. We're always open for bright, creative candidates who have a larger vision and who can tackle problems in new ways. And so we're definitely open to internships or whatever suits. And we can be very bespoke and we can act very quickly on that. We have another one from Niklaus Dräger. Hi, this might be related to the previous question. Do you offer opportunities to work on a bachelor's thesis in computer science and or physics at IARAI? I would say there's nothing that prevents us from that. I mean, on physics, maybe directly less so, but if it's related to machine learning, so to use Daniel's distinction, if it's in the intersection between physics and machine learning or the intersection between machine learning and physics, then, you know, why not? I think if it's an interesting topic, sure. I think it needs an element from my perspective, but maybe someone can tell me what they think. It needs an element of also being driven. So it's maybe not that we have a list of 50 topics and you can choose one and then we kind of hold your hand through. But if you come with maybe an idea which we find exciting and it's kind of half formed and we can help it along, but whoever or you or whoever comes, feels that has oomph and also pushes that, then I think we would be a good fit. I hope that answers the question, Niklas, and thank you for asking. Actually, we had a question earlier on GIS and where everything is in terms of earthquake prediction, flood prediction, and so on. I know that we are fortunate to have with us Yannis Giannopoulos, also at IARAI and at TU Wien, who may know much more about this and has forgotten more about this in the last 5 minutes than I ever knew. If you wanted to comment, please go ahead, and otherwise, sorry for putting you on the spot, Yannis.
Hi, everyone. So concerning earthquakes, we have not done yet much in my team yet, but of course the GIS domain, we're looking a lot of the problems we have with spatial data, right? The bars and all this. So there's a lot of things to do there. So it's a very interesting topic. So many questions.
Very nice. Thanks. From Mr. Strutzik, another organizational question. Do you have any students, PhD, postdocs, programmers as staff members?
That's another yes question, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we have students. Yes, we have PhDs. Yes, we have postdocs, and yes, we have programmers. But
yeah,
maybe you have
I would yes. So we have
better
PhDs,
response.
We have postdocs. I would say programmers. We have researchers who may have a very strong background or a CV in programming, or what I said earlier, DevOps. You know, and who know how to build things at scale with strong data analytical and data infrastructure background, but they're researchers. I mean, we aim to combine those skills, but we would like actually also to be able to build things at scale. So I know that, and don't get me wrong, student code is great. I was a student at some point too, but it's harder to maintain codes written by students over generations of students and make it scalable. So we would like to build things properly. So we have, yes, I totally agreed, but I would also say it's not like we have stripy heads and pin heads these people build and so on. We actually consider them all researchers, and we actually strive that everyone learns all the skill sets.
Maybe to also phrase it differently, I think we also consider the question on how to run code properly in a sense and at scale as a research question, and with that we have exactly the staff members also to do that kind of, or to tackle these kind of challenges. And I think this is a clear win-win situation in a way, right, between what you're running and how you're running it in the end. So I think clearly very interested in clearly a yes question there.
Also, I think when I see extremely successful machine learning today, many of these things are built at scale, right? I mean, if you run large reinforcement learning cycles and so on, this is not a simple matter of that's code you just shell out on the fly. It's structured, and there's a lot of thinking how you even capture the data that comes out even during training, how you make sense of it. And this is not trivial, and I don't actually believe that anyone has a complete answer to how this should be done. And in fact, that's one of the things we're also doing with TU Wien, researching that question. So I think very good point. I have another question from Penelope. Are researchers at IARAI expected to obtain grant funding from external sources? So I think the answer is no, not really. I guess we're adequately funded, so you don't need to do that. If you wanted to, we can look into ways on how that can be done. If it's important for your next step of your career, we can explore that. From Aniket, global warming is aggravating with the passing days. With the computational research sources that IARAI has there been work in progress which looks at or predicts the rate at which it is and will be accelerating? If AI could be used to catch the pace at which global warming is happening, more particular steps could be taken to control and mitigate its effects. The government or different countries can use the work to control the industries, okay, and its own policies. Any hint what sort of knowledge in terms of machine learning would be required to get started in this direction?
Maybe I can give it a start and the try. I would say, of course, this would be the holy grail question in a sense, if that's already possible. But as you saw, for example, from the weather forecast competition, we are exactly in that role of providing or also aggregating and finding the data to be able to actually even build these kind of predictive models to detect things like changes in weather, changes in climate. So I would say we are clearly not there, but this is clearly in scope of what we're doing.
Yeah, I like that. So I would also say the question is very good. That's these large challenges we were talking about. I think we're doing the groundwork. So both, as Moritz said, on the where we actually need data and understand how we can look at the data. Plus, if you're talking about what actions could be taken, maybe these are learned actions. So maybe it's control theory, differential control theory, reinforcement learning, or whatever. So clearly we're looking and we're all at the basic levels of these algorithms, and hopefully they'll get better over not such a long time. But I would say, yes, it's questions that drive us, Aniket. Although maybe as of today, we're at the start, I would say, realistically. Okay, I wanted to maybe plant a question, if you allow me, and that goes to some of the questions that are there. Is IARAI part of or affiliated with any university? And I shall give that, if he allows me, to David.
No, we're not. We're independent because that makes life easier in many ways. If you've ever worked at a larger university or any larger institution, you will know that there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of red tape. So we are much smaller, so we can in principle move much faster. So there's a lot of advantages of not being affiliated with the university directly. On the other hand, we are part of an ELIS node, so we have access to the ELIS PhD program and other setups, and we do host PhD students at the institute that then receive their PhD from a grant-giving university.
I have one from Fernando. Some time ago, I applied to IARAI for a tenure track opportunity. However, I was rejected. Sorry to hear, Fernando. I have now finished a reinforcement learning specialization. It is possible to apply again, but this time for a fellowship postdoc. Of course, I would say. Feel free to. We're happy to follow up. Then I would like to thank our panel. So Moritz, thank you very much. Daniel, thank you very much. David, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And of course, I thank all the people who made it happen, namely everyone who asked such great questions. I hope you learned something. I hope we see you all either at our Topia booth or contact us, whichever way you feel most comfortable with. I hope you enjoy our seminars and our output, and I hope we see you either at IARAI or collaborate with you, or you're at our competitions, or you're part of our future scientific programs. Thank you very, very much indeed, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.